And we back, and due to popular demand, I am here with the 6-man tier ranking video. So nobody created this one. I went out to create this one. So there's a couple things I have to clear up before we get into the actual rankings. One is how I determine who the 6-man of a team was, because we have the obvious ones. For example, like Lou Will is the obvious 6-man for the Clippers, even though like Montrezl Harrell is right behind him. But there are some teams out there that they don't have a 6-man, they kind of have a group of guys. So how did I determine the one guy to be the 6-man? I mostly went by minutes per game. Yeah, so if you average more minutes off the bench, you're technically the 6-man, all right? And the second thing I got to get straight is I'm not really ranking the players. I'm ranking their ability to be a good 6-man. For example, we all know that S tier is probably going to be one guy, Lou Williams, right? He is an S tier 6-man, but that doesn't make him an S tier NBA player. You get what I'm saying? So I'm ranking their ability to be the first man off the bench and how they provide for their team in that role. Again, not saying that Lou Will is a superstar because he's S tier, but he's the greatest 6-man we have in the NBA today. So here are our 30 guys. We have Iggy, DeAndre Bembry, Bogdanovich from the Kings. We have the Bridges rookie. We have Jalen Brown. We have Jordan Clarkson, Dennis Schroeder, Spencer Dinwiddie, Fred VanVleet, Josh Hart, Rodney Hood, which is an interesting one because he only was there for like half the season, but in that half the season, he played a lot of minutes off their bench. It was tough between him and Inez Cantor to determine who was the real 6-man. Then we have Ish Smith, Jay Crowder, Lou Will, Darius Miller was the 6-man of the Pelicans. You kind of know what tier he probably going to be on, right? Monta Morris, Joakim Noah, gotta love it. Kelly Oubre also was traded halfway through the season, and though he finished off as a starter most of his games, he was coming off the bench. Jabari Parker, similar situation where he was traded halfway through the season. Pat Connaughton, Patty Mills, Dwight Powell, Austin Rivers, Derrick Rose, Terrence Ross, Ryan Arcidiacono, Domantas Sabonis, Mike Scott, Alonzo Trier, and Dwayne Wade. All right, so I already gave y'all that Lou Will is an S tier 6-man. He has been for a while. He's basically this generation's best 6-man. Like how Jamal Crawford was. I know Jamal Crawford's old and all, but Jamal Crawford had this role for a while, but his old age caught up to him, and Jamal Crawford still can hoop, don't get me wrong. But Lou Williams is that right now. So when we go down the history of ranking 6-man, Lou Will is up there pretty high. So because of that, he is an S tier. Like he was in All-Star conversations last year as a 6-man. You know, he's probably going to win the award again this year. So after that, we're going to go left to right. Iggy's an interesting case because Iggy's points per game number is like 6 or 7 points per game. He's one of those guys that's not going to fill it up, but we know his impact. He is the highest plus minus amongst any NBA player in the last 5 years in the finals. So that's better than Steph Curry, better than Klay Thompson, better than Kevin Durant, better than LeBron James. So we know Iggy's impact is great. So I'm putting him on the B tier minus the fact that he only averages like 8 points per game. Now, the real thing is, in the postseason, he plays so much better than he does in the regular season. He kind of got that Draymond Green syndrome where he's like, I don't care about the regular season no more, but when the playoffs come around, I'm going to try to step up. But he is B tier. DeAndre Bembry is very interesting because I like him as a player, right? He guards very, very well. But at the end of the day, I think I'm probably going to have him C tier. At the end of this video, I will go back and revise, so maybe he's a bit lower, but we're going to have him at the C tier right now. Bogdanovich is very interesting as well because he had a very good year. He was their spark. He did have some games where he started due to injury, but he also hit a game winner this year and everything. So I am also putting him on the B tier. Yeah. Bogdanovich had a good year. Then the Bridges, I mean, he was a rookie this year. He played fine, but not good enough to make an all-rookie team or anything like that. So I'm going to throw him in the D tier right now. Jalen Brown was another case where we know their starting lineup ended up being Kyrie Irving, Marcus Smart, Marcus Morris, those were their rotation there. So Jalen Brown, after last year starting pretty much the entire year, he came off the bench this year and he was still pretty good. So I'm going to throw him into the B role. I guess if Kyrie Irving leaves, we may see a little bit more of Jalen Brown with the ball in his hands or something like that. But right now he's B tier. Also B tier is Jordan Clarkson. That guy can score the ball. I mean, that may be the only thing he can do, but he does it very, very well. I think he's one of the few players on this list, and I could be wrong here, that started 0 games. And it's not because he can't, because he plays for the Cavs. So Jordan Clarkson's good enough to start, but he's similar to Lou Will. He's like, I'm just going to come off the bench and be a spark plug. And he does that very, very well. I feel like I'm putting a lot of people in B tier because Dennis Schroeder's up there as well. He went from a starter in the Atlanta Hawks to now being the sixth man, and he accepted that role once he was traded there, and he played pretty well. But now here's an A tier guy, Spencer Dinwiddie. I'm glad to see Spencer Dinwiddie get his paper because he went from a G League player to getting cut by the Bulls to playing for the Pistons to now in Brooklyn finding a home and being one of the better six men in the league. Shout out to Spencer Dinwiddie. Fred VanVleet. My boy Freddie Magic. Yo, are we really about to have this many B tier? Maybe I'm overrating some guys here, but Fred VanVleet, I mean, we seeing it right now. Since his son has been born, he's been on fire. And in the regular season, he was pretty good too. So I'm going to put him in the B tier as of right now. Then we have Josh Hart, who he had his ups and downs. That's how I'm just going to say that. He has his ups and downs, but I don't know if he's a C tier or a D tier, and that may feel disrespectful, but I'm honestly, I had high expectations for him coming into the season because at Summer League, he was so great. I'm pretty sure he won Summer League MVP. And I'm like, all right, the Lakers got another guy to add to the rotation, and he's going to be very good. But then he played very good some nights, and some nights you're like, get him out of the game. Get him out the game. So I'm going to put him at C tier as of right now. Then we have Rodney Hood, who I'm also putting in C tier because though he did have like 4 or 5 really big games in the playoffs, before that he had lost all of his confidence. He was playing for the Cavs, and he was just not as great as you would think he would be. Ish Smith is an interesting case because there was a stat from a few years ago, and I don't know if it still holds today, but when Ish Smith was a starting point guard over Reggie Jackson, they were winning more games, and that's when Reggie Jackson was injured and everything. They were winning more games. They were playing more efficiently. They were running faster because Ish Smith is such a high-paced guard, but at the end of the day, he's a D-tier 6-man. Then we have Jay Crowder, who I'm also putting C tier. He a grinder. He can knock down some shots. He's kind of like a physical leader. You know what I'm saying? He gets under people's skin, and that's what you ask from him. Then we have Darius Miller, who I'm throwing in at the F tier. But I think Darius Miller averaged like maybe 8 points per game, which is not that bad. But his impact, other than that 8 points, maybe not that deep. Then we have Monta Morris, who had his best year in the NBA, which is good to say. And this is one of the cases where like some guys that get drafted in the second round end up being very good. They get passed on because maybe they spent 3 or 4 years at college, and now in the NBA, everybody wants to draft based on potential rather than results, where the Denver Nuggets like, we're going to draft this guy who had the highest assist to turnover ratio and close to college basketball history, and we're going to have him run our backup point guard. And guess what he did? He came to the NBA and had one of the highest assist to turnover ratios. The game is the same. The competition is a little better, but the game is the same for Monta Morris, so I'm putting him at B tier. Joakim Noah, as much as I love him, and y'all know I love him, I'm going to keep it a buck with y'all. He's like a D tier, even though he did have his moments. He had that game, he dropped 22 and 12. I remember that game very vividly, baby. And but at the end of the day, it was a D tier. But he's back in the league, and I'm sure some team is going to pay him not amazing money, but just know he'll probably have a roster spot next year. And that's all I ask. I love Joakim Noah. I just want him to be in the NBA. But I got to keep it a buck, and he is about D tier. Then we have Kelly Oubre, Valley Boy, stand up. Once he was traded to the Suns, he looked like a new player. He was always okay, at least in Washington, but then he got to play alongside D Book. He started to care more defensively, which is good because he has the tools to be a good defender. He's lengthy and he's smart. So I'm gonna put him, I think I'm gonna put him like C+ tier. And I think next year he's going to have that starting role. You know, it was just him coming in late in the season. They already had kind of rotations. And then I think the last 10 or so games he did start. But I'm putting him a C+ tier, right? C+ tier. Then we have Jabari Parker, who I'm throwing in D tier as well. And this, I don't know, maybe just because he played for my team for a while and he was not very good. I mean, you can look at his numbers and be like, Jabari Parker averaged 15 points per game, which is cool. But defensively, he was giving those 15 right back up. And I watched it with my own eyes, and it was so frustrating as a fan. So I'm putting him at the D tier again. I will revise, so I may put him up to the C tier, but right now, it's D tier, dog. Then we have Pat Connaughton, who I'm also putting D tier. Again, a couple good games in the playoffs, but other than that, he's just all right. Patty Mills. I don't want to be super disrespectful to Patty Mills because he's that guy for the Spurs. He's been there for a long time. He got that pretty big contract that I think Spurs fans may not love right now, but they love Patty Mills. They may not love the number attached to Patty Mills, but this year He may have taken a step back because of his age. He's getting up there. He can't rely on that swiftness and athleticism no more because he's getting up there in age. So personally, yeah. Then Dwight Powell, he declined a $10 million option this year, which is so weird to me because I don't know if there's another team out there to offer him that. I guess we'll find out when free agency starts. And again, right after I'm done recording, Dwight Powell decided he was going to pick up that $10 million option, so ignore that. He'll be on the Mavs next year. But maybe he just hated the situation so much that the money don't matter. I need a new team. But Dwight Powell played pretty solid this season, so I'll put him at C tier. Austin Rivers, he played in Washington, bought out or whatever, and then he ended up in Houston where he actually played great defense and he knocked down shots exactly what they needed. I'm putting him in a C tier. Derrick Rose is going B+ tier. As a sixth man, he started off very hot. He's one of the best three-point shooters in the league the first half of the season. And the second half of the season, he was one of the worst. But overall, Derrick Rose had a great season. As far as the standards we have to him based on the way he has been over previous years, he was relatively healthy this year, and that's all we can ask for. So this offseason is going to be interesting to see what team he ends up on. Chicago's an option. It's an option, Derrick. All right? Next, we have Terrence Ross, who I am putting at the A tier of sixth man because he's similar to Lou Will, where he can come into the game and get you buckets. That dude do not care. He will shoot 30 shots if you allow him to. And guess what? He'll knock down a lot of them too. Terrence Ross, another free agent this offseason. I wonder where he's going to end up. Or will he go back to Orlando because they just make the playoffs? Ryan Arcidiacono, I like him. He's got the grit. He's got the grit. And I like that in the backup point guard and everything. But compared to everybody else on this list, I got to keep it a buck. Then we have Domantas Sabonis, who is also A tier. I mean, he was sixth man of the year candidate as of right now. The one thing is, he only played like 25 minutes a game, which is pretty low when you consider six man. Like Lou Will was averaging like 30 minutes a game and everything. So I would like to see him get more minutes, but it is what it is. Mike Scott, D tier. Alonzo Trier, I'm throwing in the D tier. He had a good rookie season. Don't get me wrong. He had a good rookie season. And then Dwayne Wade, we're throwing into, I don't know. I don't want to disrespect the legend. But we're not basing on the D Wade from 2006 or from 2012 to 2015. No. We're basing them as a six-man D Wade. I think he's a B player. A B six-man. All right, so let me go revise my list. I'll be right back. All right, y'all. So this is the final list. I did make some changes. So I moved up Schroeder and Derrick Rose. They both had pretty good seasons. I got to show a lot of respect to Montrezl Harrell because though he's not on this list, if he was, he would be an A tier as well. But again, there's only one six-man per team, and Lou Will is it for the Clippers. So, but I did want to acknowledge the fact that Montrezl Harrell was had an amazing season. So the other things we did, we moved up Kelly Oubre. We moved up Patty Mills. And I think that was all we did. Everything else is pretty much the same, but I had to put a little bit more respect on Patty Mills' name. I'm sorry, Spurs fan. And Kelly Oubre actually put up better numbers than I remembered, so I had to move him up as well. But this is my six-man tier list. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. You may not agree with everything I said, but I hope you found some form of entertainment in it. If you did, be sure to leave it a like. This has been Kenny. I'll be back tomorrow. Peace.